This is the Hello World podcast, where we talk about habits of success, habits of excellence, entrepreneurship, leadership, learning and development, and outlook that will help us succeed through life. This is Louis Banta, CEO and Chief Trainer of Learning Just Made Better, or LJMB. This is episode 15 for the L or learning topic. Our guest for today will talk about leading and sustaining a learning culture during this extended crisis. And our guest is an Australia Award scholar coming from batch 2019. He graduated with distinction under the program Master of Leadership, specializing in organizational learning in Monash University, Australia. He has an MBA from De La Salle University, Manila, and a bachelor's degree in behavioral science from University of Santo Tomas. He's currently the national president of the Philippine Society for Talent Development. The society is very close to my heart as well, having been a board member in 2007. And he's also the CEO of Positive Workplaces Incorporated. He's the task force head of Oplan Hope, an ad hoc volunteer group in PSDD that's responsible for 50 plus free webinars for the Philippine learning community delivered from April until August 2020. That Oplan Hope had 50 plus volunteer local and international thought leaders able to serve 16,000 trainers and teachers with 1.3 million minutes of learning. Look at that. Really very productive in this past 6 months. And that was done, most of that was delivered during the peak of the enhanced community quarantine. Our guest has 14 years of robust experience in strategic planning, leadership development, and customer experience management. He is one of the youngest global managers in a Swiss multinational company, SGS Group, and awarded as Star Employee last 2011, where he worked for 9 years. Let's all welcome our guest for this episode 15, once again, the current national president of PSDD, John Riley Baluyot.
Hello, world. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Louis, for
John.
having me here. Yeah.
Thank you for saying yes to being our guest here in Hello World podcast. And to our Hello World podcast community, I have interacted and worked with John very recently. I was part of that set of speakers that they featured in PSTD. As I said, I'm always in the service of our Philippine L&D professionals. And I really felt that we have the right leader for PSTD during these times, a young, vibrant, energetic, agile leader. Yes, I gave you so many adjectives there, John. And if I have not expressed this to you before, I really admire as well how you are leading the society. Nakapag-adapt, tama? Nakapag-shift, nakapag-transform. Reach out to, imagine that, even teachers in the Philippines. So productive during this time. No? And but John, still recognizing that the crisis, the extended crisis is still among us. How are you? How's PSTD? And how's the state of L&D in the Philippines holding up, given all of this?
Right. So I want to talk about PSTD first. No. So PSTD is not exempt from the effects of the crisis. So as you know, PSTD is a nonprofit organization, and its way of being able to generate funds in order to um, expand its mission of learning, growing, and transforming with the Philippine learning community. Its way of raising funds is in the form of face-to-face trainings, right? It's in the form of face-to-face trainings. But just like any other training outfit, PSTD was affected. Like in March and in April, PSDD had zero funds raised, mainly because, well, the pandemic was up, the community quarantines were in play, and we also didn't have online learning programs during that time, to be perfectly honest. And as you know, because there is no opportunity for face-to-face sessions, we didn't have anything to sell. I didn't have
John,
anything to sell.
just to
Yeah.
clarify, when you said there was no online or digital learning offering, as in zero when the pandemic
Yes.
happened.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So our modules are a lot of the modules are really face to face, based on face to face. No, we didn't have self paced sessions. We didn't have virtual led training programs because they weren't made for that. We didn't expect this pandemic to hit us that hard, right? I don't think anyone did. No. So that was one of the main challenges, and since PSTD is a non-profit organization, doesn't charge that much. Tapos we also house a lot of not a lot, but a number of employees. I think PSTD has around 7 organic headcount. No, um, maintaining the headcount wasn't easy, right? Maintaining
Mhm.
the headcount wasn't easy because we didn't have unlimited funds. So, but what we did was at the start of that pandemic, we regrouped. We said, what are we supposed to do now that we are also in crisis, right? We are also in crisis. We're in crisis for funds. We're in crisis for capability, ganyan. So what we did was we took a strategy in a yin yang that's called help now, gain later. Right? Help now,
Mhm.
gain later. The pandemic or the crisis, it's a great opportunity for us to show compassion. So there are so many people who are in need, who are lost, who don't know what to do. And we have a community to serve. We have a community to serve. We have a community of teachers. We have a community
Mhm.
of trainers. We have a community of mentors, coaches, and HR practitioners too. And they are experiencing the tremors of the pandemic as well. So so the help part was not a question.
Mhm.
All of the board of trustees were good with the help part. The professional team supported the help part. And that was when Upland Hope was created. The Upland Hope is a task force then, a temporary task force with a life of 3 months, whose intent was to deliver the help that we need to the community. The idea there was, well, it's a compassion strategy. You give something to the world, eventually it gives back. Diba?
Mhm.
And that has happened with organizations like Louis Vuitton, who during some financial crisis in the past started to like for example, right now they converted their factories and manufacturing sites into alcohol
To produce
producing,
masks, saka
right?
masks din yata, no? Mhm.
Right, and they also produced masks like for the fashion wear, ano, 'di ba? So they produced masks. Um, and these are organizations, and even Ford did this, and San Miguel is doing it now in the Philippines, no. If you look at how these organizations who handled crisis in the past succeeded, it was because they showed their relevance during a time it's most needed. So that was the strategy of PSTD. We wanted it was a good opportunity for people to know what PSTD was about, what type of help they can get from it during the crisis, and how they can also help out PSTD if in the future PSTD is the one in need na.
Mhm.
So that was when Upland Hope happened. So we started to give out, just like you said, no, we had a lot of free webinars, and you were part of that. Thank you very much for you and your team, Louis. Um, so the end of that initiative is, yun nga, we had around 50 plus learning sessions which were for free. We had around 1.3 million worth of learning which are for free as well, and the best part for me was we were able to groom practitioners in that initiative. Kasi nga, it was not naman initially built for all of us to be digital facilitators. So if you
Mhm.
noticed, during the course of the free sessions, we were getting anchors, moderators, speakers, who were also new in navigating the platforms, in navigating digital facilitation. It wasn't automatically na, oh, ang galing na naman ito, ganyan. If you saw the sessions, a lot of them were nangangapa. Like, it came to a point, Louis, that the first episode, I was wearing a cap. As in yung cap na nakabaliktad.
Okay.
And I was president of PSTD, and someone told me na, oh, John, next time maybe don't wear a cap because it takes away the
Mm-hmm.
credibility out of the presidency. And for me, that helps because I'm
Mm-hmm.
also learning on the fly. So for me, that worked. So yeah, I took away my cap, and and then someone said, John, maybe next time not too long na yung intro because people naman know what this is about. So we shortened the
Mm-hmm.
intro. Okay, John,
Mm-hmm.
next time maybe we need to see different faces so that they will not be bored too much by seeing you all the time. And then we invited other training practitioners to be part of that whole mechanism so that they
Mm-hmm.
will also learn, so that they will also feel it. And if you look at it, like personalities like Evita Defa, Evita Defa, who started moderating, she's now delivering her own online trainings to her clients.
Mm-hmm.
See LV Tarobal, who was the president of PSDD before, who just moderated and anchored in some of our sessions, she is now again back on the horse and doing consultancy and training for her own clients. And same with others, Maribel Aglipay, you know this. See, of course, our chairman Jesse, who's doing a lot of talks also, no, currently. These are the things that we accomplished. We were able to groom some of the practitioners who were having a hard time. We were able to inspire stories from listeners who learned something from those stories and those initiatives of bravery. And yeah, and we were happy about that because when we did that, we also created capability. Diba? We
Mm-hmm.
also created capability for PSTD, which is a bit new. So now, PSTD has online courses.
Mm-hmm.
PSTD is running a national convention that's digital on November 16 to 18. And those
Mm-hmm.
capabilities would not have been possible if we didn't help out. So yeah, so that's
So it all started no with that how did you call it nga? Was it a mantra or how did you call the give now, help now, and
gain
then gay
later.
later? What do you call that, John?
So
That
it's
phrase?
for us that's a yin yang strategy, no.
Okay, yeah,
So
yin yang
it's
strategy, no.
yeah. So
Mm.
help now, gain later. And
Which is
in the yeah.
really it makes a lot of good sense. I was tempted to say good business sense, no? But in a way, because we're also generating funds for the society, yes, makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense. That you give, as
Mm,
Gary Vaynerchuk, when he's a popular digital icon, said, give, and then later on ask. No, so focus on giving first. So
right.
the initiatives of PSTD, the organization as a whole, and
Mm,
the local L&D landscape evolved, as you said, and you
yeah.
mentioned several of our common friends, no?
Yes.
Practitioners. Just like me, when the lockdown started, I had 2 weeks of really reflecting, watching Netflix at night, John.
Correct.
I
Correct.
have not done that in the past, no, but I found myself watching Netflix at night with that question: what do we do next? And I think you also inspired, gave a platform for a lot of the professionals to try it out or to
Right.
observe how others do it. Pero
Right.
that's more on the side of the provider, John, no?
Right.
About the members of PSTD, the
Right.
learning managers, the specialists and officers,
Mm,
what success stories have you come across that also showed how they evolved as inspired by PSTD?
right. So I'll speak about I'll continue the train of thought of the challenges in
Go ahead.
relation to the community. Tapos let's
Mm.
go to that success story for some of them
Sige.
who voiced out those stories. No. So we observed Louis from the perspective of the society that there were three main impacts of the pandemic to practitioners. So the first one is um, the revisiting of capabilities and competencies that have to be built. Um, Kasi the pandemic created a different world. And it's a world that is going to stay. It's not a temporary world. Eh. I always say this because I really feel strongly about it. Um,
But there were some people, a lot of people were in denial, John, when this started, right? Even
Still,
LND decision makers, no? And even up to
even
now,
up
in
until
denial
now,
pa
there
rin.
are some people who are in denial. So I always say this, and even in my in my other talks, that the digital transformation, it's not a phase. It's not a phase. It was not something that was caused by the pandemic. The digital transformation, it's a future. The pandemic, what it did was to accelerate that future.
Mm.
So right now, since kasi we're not going to like look at it this way. Ah. even if the pandemic is over, we're not going to stop doing remote work setup. In fact, a lot of forecasts have shown that in even in post-pandemic, hybrid management or hybrid workplaces will actually be the thing. Why
Mm-hmm.
is that? Number one, savings.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a lot of organizations are now saving so much money on rent, on
Mm-hmm.
transportation, on utilities, di ba? That before they didn't know possible, but because the pandemic pushed it, now it's here, di ba?
Mm-hmm.
So why are you going to give up those savings?
Yes.
There's also that impact of people, like on the perspective of workers, who now find value working from home. I'm not going to generalize. Not everyone likes working from home. Because
Works
there
for
are,
me.
yeah, I know. There are some people. There are some people though who really love the interaction, going out and being in the office. And for a lot of reasons, they are not comfortable with their family. They're not comfortable at home. They're a lot of them are mega extroverts, and that's fine. Um, but a good number of people, and this is also based on a survey that we did, no, in positive workplaces, naman, found the benefit in working from home.
Mm-hmm.
The time that you lost with your family, you're now starting to get back. Kasi
Mm-hmm.
it's something that you don't have to commute for work anymore. So that time is being spent with family, and you get to meet your kids. Na before na sobrang um, time na hindi natin nagagawa. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and there's also that savings in the part of the on the employees, kasi they don't get to buy too many clothes anymore, uh, and they also don't get to commute as terribly compared to before. So a lot of these benefits are just some of the more tangible ones that people now start to see, and because the 6 months have shown those benefits, it's starting to create a culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know naman, di ba? Cultures are shared learnings. So when people see those shared learnings and they see that it benefits them, bottom line, top line, or whatever, it will be retained.
Mm-hmm.
So in that future, that's the hybrid workplaces setup that a lot of organizations are now trying to strategize on. Why am I saying that? It's because of that hybrid work setup, capabilities and competencies are now evolving. It's not
Mm-hmm.
anymore yung dati na competencies na hindi okay na, you have normal leadership. Um,
Yes.
okay na yung magaling ka sa problem solving, ganyan.
Mm-hmm.
Hindi na enough yon. There are three main competencies right now that are floating in the air, na ginagrab ng mga tao in order for them to become more competitive. One
Uh-huh.
competency is learning on the fly. And this is what you are doing, Louis, and I'm very happy that your organization is very brave. And I always look at it as you look at that future, you strategize, you try a lot of things and prototype, and then you iterate quickly, which is what the context right now requires, about the agility to shift. So that learning on the fly, very important competence. And you can ask a lot of organizations. Not everyone has that. Not
Mm-hmm.
everyone has that on an organizational level, let alone on skill on a team level or an individual level. So that's one. The
Mm-hmm.
second one is strategic thinking. Kasi and people mistake strategic thinking as complex, no? Di ba parating lang iniisip na if it's
Yes.
strategic thinking, it's 5 years, it's 10 years, it's trying to predict a future that may or may not happen.
Or it's not for me. It's the job of the top and
Of the
senior
top
leaders,
management,
no?
right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. Strategic thinking is being able to anticipate, yung pagiging maagap. It can be as
Mm-hmm.
short as 6 months. It can, di ba? Like right now, for instance, we're in a world na sobrang bilis mag-shift. Di ba?
Mm-hmm.
Yun yung sinasabi
Mm-hmm.
natin sa changing sa VUCA eh.
Yes.
So parang it's easy for us to have strategies that are shorter
Mm-hmm.
compared to stretch strategies that expand to 10 years. Then that's fine, 'di ba? For the top leaders who are envisioning something really big. Pero
Mm-hmm.
yung like even on the mid managers who can anticipate strategy just for a year, like
Mm-hmm.
to try to read a future just in a year's time or in a 6 months time, that matters a lot
Baka
because
nga per quarter na ano, John, no? Tapos continue to, 'di ba, tweak lang as you go along.
correct. You know why? Because not everyone is thinking that way. So people who are thinking that way, they are more competitive. They are
Mm-hmm.
more advanced. And Louis, the world right now, especially with the economic recession happening, for private organizations, we cannot afford not to be competitive. Kasi
Mm-hmm.
there's less money going around. If there's less money going
Correct.
around, that also means that less businesses will also be able to get customers. 'Di ba?
Mm-hmm.
Kahit sa training field, kahit sa iba, except siguro there are some industries right now who are really doing well, whether or not we
Yes.
like it. 'Di ba? The supermarkets, the telecom in the telecom
Logistics.
logistics, they're all doing
Mm-hmm.
well. Online shopping, 'di ba? May mga ganon na nag-thrive. Pero for the most part, we are all severely affected. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're going to look at it in an overall perspective, because our GDP is, I think, now negative, no, and it's going to continue, no, sorry, not GDP, the GDP increase is negative.
Mm-hmm.
So because that recession is going to continue, less organizations will have um people to sell to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And competition is a bit steep. So if
Yes.
we're not strategic, then it's like giving up the fight, right? It's like giving
Correct.
up the fight already. The last
You will
and for
really be left behind.
correct. And the last, and for me, this is the most essential part, is digital proficiency. Um, and by digital proficiency, I don't mean sobrang like tech savvy on everything. Ah. I just know it's just a matter of being able to use different platforms for people to communicate and learn. Na before was not the case. So yung digital proficiency na yon, that's PSTD's focus right now. Na we want to be able to help out organizations kasi yung mga competencies na ito na pinag-uusapan natin, ang isang malaking tulong that PSDD can contribute to is digital learning and digital development.
Mm-hmm.
One of the and the reason why that's the case is because of the experience, 'di ba?
Mm-hmm.
Sinubukan natin.
Yes.
At nagkaroon tayo ng output, nagkaroon tayo ng produkto, nagkaroon tayo ng capability, and now people are looking for that expertise to be shared to them so that sila rin
Mm-hmm.
magamit nila ng in a matter of organization. It's not anymore a matter of individual. So
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, so
John,
those are
recap natin ha.
yeah. Mhm.
Learn learning on the fly,
Yes, learning on the fly.
which for me is also learning agility, no?
Correct.
Second one is strategic thinking,
Yes.
and the third one is digital proficiency.
Yes.
How did you name them again? These are the three
The-
competencies required in the new normal.
Yeah, especially for learning and development leaders and HR
Mm-hmm.
leaders para ma-support
Mm-hmm.
nila yung organization on the capability that will be necessary for their organizations to flourish.
I
And
have
this is
two
not
further questions on that. Very, very
yeah,
quickly lang, ano.
go ahead.
Number one is, which of the three do you think is the biggest area for improvement? And the second one that makes me wonder right now is, why are L&D professionals and leaders, why are these the top three? For example, strategic thinking, yung digital proficiency, I understand why, because
Mm,
as you mentioned, my company and PSTD has always delivered in person. We've never really
yeah.
tried it. But the first two, you know, trainers teach agility. Trainers always teach go out of your comfort zones and learn. Trainers teach strategic thinking courses. And yet,
Mm.
right now, it shows that it's top two areas for improvement. Ano kaya yung barriers, no, ng isang L&D professional and leader?
I think one of the barriers is really the tool, 'di ba? Digital. Kasi and I've seen this happen like in the last couple of months, no. You see that there are so many trainers right now who are senior, who are already very like who had wisdom and expertise for what 20-30 years in delivering the training programs, like for example delivering the core of master trainer certification, no? The training
Mm-hmm.
design, training analysis, training facilitation, training management, ganyan. The thing though is, even if you're an expert on those, because the world is transforming to digital, there is also a significant shift. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I think a lot of trainers didn't anticipate, a lot of expert trainers didn't anticipate that it will come too soon.
Mm-hmm.
Na they know, like I'm sure a lot of trainers also have strategic minds. It's just that they didn't know that it was going to be now na it's going to be like COVID, here it is. Parang wala na kayong choice, kailangan gawin ito, otherwise you will not survive. So that's why when I said what I said was COVID accelerated that future. So feeling ko that's one of the main factors, no. It came earlier than expected. So that's one of the things that came up. The other one that I think is a lot of practitioners right now kasi are a bit confused then because especially the ones in corporate, no, yung nagbi-mix na kasi yung function ngayon ng HR, L&D, and also helping out with the crisis. Kasi
Correct.
kasi ang dami kong mga kaibigan ngayon na practitioners na dati ang trabaho nila, for example, talent management lang. Ngayon pinapatulong na sila sa procurement. Ngayon pinapatulong na sila sa ibang mga functions kasi hindi na kaya nung ibang parts of the organization because they're also cutting down on manpower. So the other problem is a lot of our friends na practitioners are being overwhelmed kasi they're taking on responsibilities na hindi na dati responsibilidad ng ibang tao, diba?
And they're not experts in these things that they're being asked to help on.
Exactly. So that's also part of it, no. And tao lang din naman tayo. Hindi naman limited yung oras natin, limited yung expertise, limited yung kakayahan, pero mataas yung expectation. Kasi una, hindi ka pwedeng mahuli. Kasi pag nahuli ka, di yung ibang mga organizations or yung ibang mga kumpanya na nagbi-build din ng capability, ma-outsmart yung kumpanya nyo. And pag nahirapan kayo mag-raise again ng revenue, then likely magbabawas na naman ng tao. Kasi gano'n naman, di ba? Inuuna yung tao ng mga leaders bago ano. So that's one thing that I see as a big challenge for a lot. No? Kaya yung learning on the fly, and it wasn't me who said this. This was Michelle Garcia who said this in the other talk. Yung learning on the fly is very important kasi wala tayong choice eh. 'Di ba? Parang pag na-face tayo sa mga problems ngayon, what we have to do is to really be quick and think on our toes. Tapos just learn let's learn from the experience kasi kailangan. Wala na tayo masyadong luxury na hindi, sige, pause muna. Ganyan. Katulad
That's
dati, di
the
ba?
hallmark of resiliency, John, di
Yeah.
ba? Of the 3 hallmarks of resiliency, it's really inventing solutions, no? But just do something instead of getting stuck, no, and complaining about the situation.
Correct. So yun, so I hope that explains some of the challenges kung bakit these competencies are a bit more relevant now compared to before.
So would agree that still a lot of organizations don't know how to move forward even after 6 months in this pandemic? Because from the point of view of a vendor, John, the way it affected the business of a training consulting company is not too many companies. We've seen it in the inquiries in the business coming in. No,
Right.
For one, obvious that health and safety is still a priority. The others needed to focus on settling down with work from home because they did not know what to do. And then 6 months na since that happened, and still not all of our clients have gotten back. No? Usually we have a high level of repeat orders. Is it financial? Is it economic that, as you mentioned earlier, they're also managing costs? Or is it more of still waiting to prove that this digital learning is really the way to go? Or what's happening in the organizations now? Or is it taking them time to plan and design and then later on execute? Or another thought, John, are L&D folks just waiting for 2021 and to start begin 2021 and using this Q3 and Q4 as a springboard? Anong sinasabi ng mga members natin?
Right. So right now there is no credible study for it yet, no. That's why we're waiting for the state of the industry survey that we did. Because the first one that we released, the COVID-19 situation or for the L&D practitioner, and this is free, no, for everyone. If that was taken on the perspective of when the pandemic was just fresh, sometime March to April. So it was trying to also ask them kung ano yung mga priorities. And based on that study, one issue was channel,
Mm-hmm.
meaning like the channel by which the learning will go through. Not everyone was ready for digital. They think it was a platform that didn't match the face-to-face learning sessions. Pero what we observed after 3 months was a lot of organization eventually caved. Hindi rin naman
Mm-hmm.
sila pwedeng huminto mag-learn at mag-build ng capability kasi wala silang
Correct.
magagawa.
People
wala
will
silang
ask for it, and people need it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. So marami rin na nag-transition na into digital facilitation. But I think, Louis, there's also that factor of money, no? We cannot discount the fact that a lot of organizations will always cut training budget first
Mm-hmm.
or probably second. When an economic hit happens. And true enough, that is what's happening with a lot of organizations right now. Even big organizations, I heard, no, like Meralco have also cut down on budget, and I hear this because, of course, I'm also speaking to some of my friends in the field. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but what I also noticed was if they really found the training worth it, tapos nakita nila na aligned yon doon sa competencies that are relevant to what they're experiencing right now. And
Mm-hmm.
what I showed you in the what we shared in the situational report are the top trainings that a lot of organizations are looking for are number one, leadership trainings.
Mm-hmm.
Kasi leadership trainings, medyo staple eh. Nagkaroon ng pandemic, leadership is about being able to influence people to achieve certain goals.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless kung ano yung context, kung magaling ka na leader, magaling ka na leader. Magkakaroon ka ng goal, maimpluwensyahan mo sila kung ano yung kailangan nilang gawin. And
Mm-hmm.
you will be able to strategize, right? You know how to use power, you know how to use influence.
Yes.
And a lot of people still are not there. Wala pa rin
Mm-hmm.
sila doon sa leadership capability na yun. And true enough, 'di ba? If you look at it on a perspective of government and if you look at it on the perspective of private, there's so
Mm-hmm.
many dubious leadership around. That's why
Mm-hmm.
people will always be okay, leadership is key. So leadership trainings will be there. Leadership
The
training will
crisis, John, has really revealed, no, revealed the kind of leaders that you have, whether you are in corporate or if you look at your community or government. No, revelation time talaga to because of the
correct.
crisis.
Correct. It's a test, definitely, for a lot of leaders. And that's also when the top two naman na training that we got from that survey was management. And the difference is, diba, leadership is being able to influence people to achieve certain goals. Management
Mm-hmm.
kasi is being able to create order. So there's also influence, pero management is being able to limit variations based on how they lead, 'di ba?
Mm-hmm.
Management is a type of leadership, and it's making sure that the team or the organization has little mistakes and has
Mm-hmm.
little variation so that their targets will be more achieved. 'Di ba? Kaya nga
Mm-hmm.
meron tayong mga management systems eh. Yung mga
Mm-hmm.
management systems natin like ISO, TQM, 'di ba? That's for managers to know how to have governance procedures and policies that will stabilize the performance of organizations and teams. That's
Mm-hmm.
also a need. That's also a need.
Okay.
Kasi in a very uncertain world and it's very unpredictable, you cannot have all leaders lang that will infuse
Yes.
change. Eh. You also need managers who will be able to create some sense of order to the performance that's happening within the organization. So,
Mm-hmm.
kailangan nandun yung dalawa. So, yun yung dalawang top, no? At tapos yung
Leadership
tatlo,
and management. No?
leadership and management.
Okay.
Tapos yung tatlo na nagjo-jockey doon sa third, fourth, and fifth is in the individual development, as in for ano no for the staff, digital proficiency. Tapos the third one, the last one na nagdadangle minsan nandun, minsan wala is coaching and mentoring. So
Mm-hmm.
so yun yung nakita namin based dun sa situational when we did a survey from the learning and development community.
And just to excite our listeners, John, while I know that you have offered through the Facebook page of PSTD that the members or anybody can download that report, no? Is
Mm.
that correct?
Yes,
Eh,
yes.
will you also be devoting time to discuss and share the studies in depth? I suppose in the convention there'll be a segment where
Yeah,
you'll
yeah.
talk about this.
I have a segment. I have a segment in the convention for president, and I will use some of like not just the that study, no. Pero if we have the results of the state of the industry na, I'll also be sharing that so that our practitioners, our will have guidance na, oh, this is what others are experiencing. What you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling is normal. Para
Yes.
people will feel that sense of, okay, I'm not alone. I Others are also experiencing this. Plus, they will know tips. Kasi what this convention has, Louis, is, and this is very deliberate for us, ha? What
Mm-hmm.
we did was to actually invite speakers who will be able to share success stories during the pandemic. During the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic. Kasi the success stories during and before the pandemic are totally different. You will
Mm-hmm.
hear frameworks from other people before the pandemic that has worked in a world that's not as uncertain as this one.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did was we really researched sino ba yung mga sumubok. Sino ba yung mga nagkaroon ng wins? Sino ba ngayon yung medyo namamayagpag kasi talagang meron silang mga programa na ginawa during the pandemic towards the digital. And that's why you are there, 'di ba? It was because we really saw how LJMB was able to use and capitalize on the opportunities that this pandemic is bringing in order to do what? How many was that na, Louis? Was that 300 webinars that you
Well,
conducted?
now we are breaking 200. But in
200.
terms of hours, John, in terms of hours, mga nasa 600 to 700 hours yun.
Imagine
Eh?
that.
Mm-hmm.
So these are things. These are things that we need to hear. We need to hear why these stories are successful, why they did it at the start, and how it worked now for them. What are they reaping as benefits? Kasi people right now, because of all of the chaos, they don't like hearing framework A, framework B, framework C. They
Mm-hmm.
like hearing what worked so that they can immediately get tips that they can apply kasi they have the similar context. Wag na
Mm-hmm.
natin silang pahirapan, di ba? Wag na natin silang pahirapan because there are cases that work. And that's what people will see in the convention. They will see people from the Australia Institute for Training and Development who will also share their expertise. Two presidents. We were able to invite two presidents because of the partnership. Kasi
Mm-hmm.
PSDD has signed an MOU with them this year.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have people from the General Electric. We also have people like you. We also have people from Globe Telecom, from Tugo Group. We have people from the CEO of RCBC. We also
Mm-hmm.
were able to invite people from FMCG, Universal
Mm-hmm.
Robina CEO, and also the HRVP. And a lot
Galing,
of,
ha?
yeah,
Diverse, and maganda nun, they will really hear from the perspective of decision makers, regardless of
correct.
industries, no?
Correct. And these are stories. Now, these are not hard to digest ba? Kasi yun yung natutunan natin, Louie, alam mo yan,
Mm-mm.
na
Mm-mm.
hindi na enough yung magsasalita ka ng 1 oras. Kasi hindi sila makikinig sa iyo.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
'Di ba? It's you need to be able to create some interaction. Kailangan may spice,
Mm-mm.
kailangan
Mm-mm.
storytelling. Kasi yung storytelling
Yes.
yung nag-work for a lot of people. So that's
Saka
what
dyan
the
maganda nun, yung stories, merong immediate results, di ba?
yeah.
2 to 3 to 4 months, especially in the last 6, no? By the time
Oo.
that we do the convention, 7, 8 months, no? May maganda doon yung story, may action, may conflict, may action, and then may results, no? So that's what
Correct.
I look forward to hearing in the convention.
At saka ang cute kasi, ang title ng convention is Digitalent. The Digitalent is not exclusive. It means that anyone, digital natives ka man or digital immigrants ka man, anyone right now is a Digitalent. It's
I
just
like
a
the
matter.
digital immigrants, ah.
Oo. Kasi lahat wala naman tayong ibang dadaanan wala naman tayong ibang
Mm-mm.
option, 'di ba?
Mm-mm.
Kailangan natin mag-communicate through Zoom, kailangan natin mag-train through Zoom for a lot of us, especially pag nagkaroon na ng mas maraming hybrid workplaces.
Mm-mm.
So that's really the future that was accelerated. And
Mm-mm.
we want to hear stories about those. We want to hear stories na bakit madali kay organization X na nag-transition sila. Ang laki-laki nung organization, 8,000 employees. 'Di ba? Ano yung
Mm-mm.
ginawa
Mm-mm.
nila? Ano yung ginawa nung mas maliit na organization na mas agile? Mas nakalamang ba sila? Ano yung ginawa
Mm-mm.
nila? So, pag
Mm-mm.
narinig ng mga tao yun, parang, ay, gagawin ko yung, meron silang autonomy ngayon to choose na, maybe gagawin ko tong
Mm-mm.
isang tip na to from this organization, isang tip na to from this
Mm-mm.
organization, and make it our own. And that's
Mm-mm.
for me where the magic is. Kasi that's when people start to own those practices, they get it. Pinagpachi-pachi na nila sa kanila at nakuha na design nila for themselves. That autonomy is empowering kasi it gives them some sense of control. Control that a lot of people are not feeling right now during the pandemic.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, so
And
that's the
they will now
objective.
be more
Correct.
prepared for 2021, because as you said, this is not going to go away, right?
Correct. So I hope a lot of I hope your audience, and let me plug this a bit more, no, Louis. I hope your
Mm-hmm.
audience, your channel, people who are listening to this will find this value in the convention. It's very cheap. The convention is just 1,250 per member for early bird. Tapos meron pang discount sa ating mga guro at estudyante. So pag
Mm-hmm.
guro at estudyante, mas mababa yung rate. At saka pag government, mas mababa yung rate doon sa usual.
When
So
is this going to happen again, John? What are the specific dates?
so it's
November.
going to be on November 16 to 18. Tapos
Mm-hmm.
half day siya. Half day siya puro in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Tapos merong plenary, may plenary speakers, tapos meron tracks. So ang tracks
Okay.
natin would be agility and grit, empathy and bouncing forward. So yun yung
Mm-hmm.
ating yung mga tracks for the convention. But all of them are enveloped by that digital context. So,
Galing
kaya
ng
yung
title,
mga
ano?
slides.
Yung theme, Digitalent. Right?
Yes, Digitalent.
Galing.
So, yun. So, if the
And
if people would want to know more about it, very easy. You just email inquiries at pstd.org
mm-hmm.
or visit the Facebook site of PSTD at
John, what we're going to
facebook.com
do, if
my PSTD.
you
Yeah.
approve with the poster of Digitalent, with the
Mm.
rates and with the announcements,
Yeah.
we can put that at the end of this video, YouTube video.
Yes. Oh my God.
Okay?
Thank you so much. We'll really
Okay lang ba yun, no?
appreciate that.
Para we'll drive it, we'll promote it in our LJMB page. No? So when they end listening to this podcast, they will see
They will
the
see that.
Digitalent
Yes.
PSTD poster with the rates, no, whether you're a member or not. Okay?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
John, really impressed by how you're really leading PSTD. Of course, well, the previous past presidents, no, are also my members of my personal or professional network.
Yeah.
But your tenure as president of PSTD, you were not expecting this, but
No, I was
you're
not.
really rising up to the challenge. So congratulations to you, and congratulations to the rest of our board and members and officers of PSTD. John, recap ko lang. You said that the challenges of L&D right now, of course, related to all of those business, no, and corporate realities affected by the pandemic. But one major challenge is how to really focus on these three competencies that
Mm-hmm.
the workforce needs. No? You mentioned learning on the fly, you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned strategic thinking, and you mentioned the digital proficiency. Also, you mentioned some barriers, no, that are preventing L&D decision makers, no, and managers in doing it. No? And then you mentioned the top three training that
Mm-hmm.
the companies and employees require or need: leadership development and management development. And again, harping back on digital proficiency.
Right.
And so I know that our community of listeners, if you are in L&D, or if you are, even if you are not in L&D, you are a leader in operational areas, you have that L&D hat. Yes,
Yes.
because you also need to own talent development. So now hearing that from the leader of the premier and biggest talent development society in the Philippines. John, if there's a final tip that you have for our L&D and HR leaders in overcoming these continued challenges, so before they meet you or see you in the convention in Digitalent, what's a final tip that you can share to our community of listeners?
Right. Louis, I love opportunities. My strength in Gallup is significance. That's my top
Mm-hmm.
strength. It's significance, no. And what I would like to share our um to our community right now is this is a great time to make your mark. Whatever organization, whatever company, whether private or government agency you're coming from, it's a great time to make your mark. Number one, because a lot of people are still a bit stunned. No, hindi kahit na 6 months na, hindi
Mm-hmm.
ganun kadali to rise up from a crisis. Hindi ganun kadali. And alam po
Agree.
natin lahat 'yan. No matter how agile we are as an organization, PSTD, we are still having problems raising funds. We are still having problems with getting back on our feet. No one is exempted. Pero the significance or making the mark part is always bound for me by compassion to community. Now, if you're able to deliver and the community saw that you are delivering, that you are giving what they need, in the future that community will help you. And for me, that's the most important thing. Kasi kasi it's like giving to givers. You're able to perpetuate that compassion cycle in organizations, and that help that other people need, maybe helping others too if it starts to ripple. So for me, make your mark. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
are down. That means that a lot of help is also needed. So be generous with your help. And once you're generous with your help, look after yourself. Diba? Look after yourself kasi you have limitations. Diba? Our energy is limited. We're only human beings. Look after yourself too and know when to say no eventually. But the third thing that for me is also very important is listen. Listen to everything that's happening around you. You now have tools, 'di ba?
Mm-hmm.
You have SurveyMonkey, you have Mentimeter, you have Zoom polls. It's so much easier right now to listen to your employees, to your stakeholders. Why? Because the pandemic has created a new world and no one has monopoly on solutions. And
Mm-hmm.
because there are so many things happening around us, the solutions may be from the people that you're listening to. So if you know how to listen, and you can trust me on this. There are so many organizations who are great listeners and then also great prototypers. They are the ones who are succeeding now. So if you can incorporate those three in your life, one point or the other, it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a bit energizing than where you are right now. So yeah, so those are
These two
my
lines will stick with me, John. The first thing that you said, the yin yang strategy,
yeah.
that we would need to help first,
Mm,
then gain later.
yeah.
And the second one is make your mark. You
Mm,
are a talent, you are in talent development, or you're a trainer, yes,
right.
or you're a leader, or you're even a team player, regardless of what you do. And if you are a trainer, more so that responsibility. John, alam
Correct.
mo, ang trainer, tama, pagpasok niyan sa kwarto, ramdam na ramdam mo ang energy level, ang
Correct.
enthusiasm niyan, ang confidence niyan. If
Correct.
you're a trainer, if you're a workplace learning professional like John and myself, yes, it's really time. People need it.
Right.
Make your mark. That's John Riley Baluyot, current president of the Philippine Society for Talent Development, guesting in our Hello World podcast, episode 15. John, let's greet our listeners and we say goodbye to them by again saying that Hello World greeting. Hello World.
Hello world. Thank you so
Thank you
much
so
again,
much,
Louis.
John.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, this is Louis Banta, CEO and Chief Trainer of LJMB or Learning Just Made Better. Thanks for watching my video. To get more videos like this, click subscribe and hit the bell icon below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below, and share this video to others.